Episode 8 will not be out for another year and a half.
Is there anything else?
Alright, John here with another Boy Wonder broadcast. Today I'm bringing you the Star Wars Force Awakens spoiler review. So, if you haven't seen it, I was waiting a couple days before I did this. Saw it Thursday night, saw it again Friday, saw it in 3D, saw it in 2D. I'll explain some differences, maybe. But if you have not seen it yet and you care about spoilers, turn it off now. So, starting off, I absolutely loved this movie. Can it surpass Empire? Probably not. But from the opening crawl, the very first line, Luke has vanished. That gives you, just the opening crawl alone, it automatically puts you back in the Star Wars world. There's no more stuff about senates and trade disputes. There's no more just worthless banter that the casual moviegoer wouldn't care about. You're automatically thrust in the world. The Resistance is there. The First Order is there. The Republic needs the First Resistance. They gotta find Luke to help them, and we're put on Jakku. We're introduced to Poe Dameron, who is the best damn starfighter pilot in the galaxy, and Poe's awesome, and he comes in, and then the First Order lands, and then all of a sudden you're like, we're in the business. The First Order, they're not like the old stormtroopers. No. These guys, they come in and they just wreck it. They capture Poe, and there's some witty banter between Poe and Kylo. Poe, this is where I talk first, you talk first. And, there's a little bit of that Star Wars humor, stuff that was missing before, and we're finally getting that kind of stuff. And so Poe's captured. We introduce Finn, who is a stormtrooper. They talk about how stormtroopers were essentially indoctrinated, something I mentioned in a ThunderPop Podcast that I did with my friend Stephen Presley. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Among other things, I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. I called it. That was one of the things. Stormtroopers are indoctrinated. Stormtroopers are essentially kidnapped as kids, and they're programmed. And Kylo does a kind of the only throwback to the prequels, where he talks about maybe we should get a clone army, and that was kind of cool. And the banter between him and General Hux is it's just kind of like a sibling rivalry when they're talking to Supreme Leader Snoke. So Finn has this crisis of conscience. And, this is his first go-round as a stormtrooper, and he sees the kind of work they do, and he's like, I want none of this. I gotta get away. I gotta flee. And he essentially rescues Poe, and he needs a pilot. Finn wants to get away. Poe obviously needs to get away. The information is on BB-8, who is adorable, and they need to get BB-8. And so Finn and Poe flee this Star Destroyer, and they crash land, and Finn, his first instinct, he wants to get away, and then we're introduced to Rey. Rey is a solitary character. She's obviously very independent. She can take care of herself, and there's some interesting stuff there with like the little doll that looks like a starfighter pilot, and she's got what looks to be Luke's helmet, and immediately I was kind of like, oh, okay, now something went down with her here. And her and Finn meet, and then it's nonstop, and you've got some cool scenes with them, and Finn and Rey, and Finn's trying to hold her hand, and she's like, "Don't stop holding my hand." And then they gotta get away. They gotta get BB-8 to the Resistance to get the information about Luke, and they're running, and it's a really cool line where they're running, and Finn's like, "What about that one?" And Rey's like, "Oh, that's garbage." And then the ship they're going towards blows up, and then they're like, "Oh, the garbage will do." And then you pan over, and it's the Millennium Falcon, and it's a great the feels and the atmosphere and the people in the theater were just like, it's the Millennium Falcon, it's back. Han Solo shows up, and Harrison Ford's great. He's Han Solo. He's being Han Solo, and he immediately it jumps out. That's the character. It's Han Solo, and Harrison Ford hasn't really done much of merit lately. And when he went back to Indiana Jones several years ago, it wasn't the same. When he goes back to Han Solo, it's Han Solo. We're getting Han Solo back, and it's a great feeling. From there, I want to jump to our villain, Kylo Ren. And he's a lot different than what we've gotten in villains with Star Wars in the past, because most of the villains we've gotten, they're villainous. Darth Vader, from the first time we see him, he's tear the ship up. You've found those plans. I want them alive. Da da da. And he is he's badass, and he's an asshole from the get-go. Kylo Ren, from the moment we meet him, he's very menacing. I mean, he's killing people right off the bat, Max von Sydow, and he stops that blaster in midair, and the bolt is just like hanging there, and you're like, oh shit, this guy he's legit. This is a badass. And then we start seeing a little bit of him, not just from taking the mask off, but we see some stuff where he's a little troubled. It's the first time. Usually we see people with the light and they're struggling because the dark is trying to get in. This is somebody who has accepted the dark side of the Force, and their fear is the light side. They feel the light side creeping in, and that's where they have some hindrances, and they feel some moments of uncertainty. And it's something we hadn't gotten before. And, in the mask, he's very menacing. He's very, you can tell the other people in the First Order, they don't want to go around him when he's having these temper tantrums, because all it takes is something to set him off, and he's tearing up his giant MacBook, and it's and he takes the mask off, and he's really kind of troubled. And it's something that I wish we would have gotten with Anakin in the prequels, and we didn't get that, and we got kind of the whiny, they're animals, and I kill them like animals, and then I'm not even going to go there, because this is what we should have gotten flipped with Anakin, struggling with the dark coming in as Kylo Ren. He made his decision, he betrayed Luke, slaughtered the Jedi that were being trained, and then now he's got to live up to the legacy of his grandfather, Darth Vader. And it's a really interesting thing going on with him. The movie progresses, and I had these feelings, and I made these predictions, and I'm kind of upset that I made them, because now a lot of them ended up being true, and so I kind of foresaw things that were going to happen, and it kind of took me out of it a little bit. The biggest spoiler, obviously, they're trying to destroy the Starkiller base, which I'll get to that later when I talk about things I liked, things I didn't like about the movie. And then, Leia tells Han and, Kylo Ren. And they put this in there in the first act where Snoke tells Kylo Ren, your father, Han Solo, is there. You haven't even gone up against a test like this. And so they get that out of the way. There's no playing around. There's no beating around the bush. Kylo Ren is Han Solo and Princess Leia, now General Leia's son. And a lot of people thought maybe Kylo Ren and Rey were siblings. I disagreed, and now obviously that's a moot point. So, Kylo Ren's there, and he senses Han, and then, Leia wants Han to go bring him back, bring their son back. And if there's, like I said, if there's anything that can tear apart a relationship. It's a kid going to the dark side of the Force and slaughtering people and, you know, pretty much shaming his uncle, who is the greatest Jedi and now the last Jedi. And when Han Solo calls him out, like, Ben! And then that's the big reveal, you know, his name is Ben Solo. And in the expanded universe, which is now Legend or Legacy, whatever, Ben was actually Luke's kid, but now we have Ben Solo, who is Kylo Ren. And, you know, my heart started pumping. I knew, man, Han's gonna die. And he goes onto that platform above the big chasm, which these big Empire, you know, destructive things they create always seem to have these giant chasms where people fall into, and that's how they die. And so I was like, here it comes. Bye, Han Solo. And it actually played out a lot better than I thought. I mean, I felt it was coming. I knew it was coming. My heart was racing. And when they have that little interchange, that dialogue there on the platform, and Kylo Ren is telling him, like, I'm torn. I'm tired of living in pain, and I'm split in half, and will you help me? And Han Solo, anything. And I was like, maybe, you know, maybe he's bringing him back. And it's a perfect shot too, where you have like the red from the Star Killer base, you know, sucking up the energy of the sun, and then you have like the fading blue in the background, and so you have the blue and the red, and they're playing off each other, and it's a really great scene. And then the Star Killer base finishes sucking up the energy, and so the blue disappears, and it's all red, and then Kylo Ren just drives the lightsaber through him, and Han falls down the chasm. And one of the biggest emotional impacts of this movie was after he kills Han Solo, Chewie's reaction. And it was like, oh, my best friend, my brother, he just got killed by his kid. And Chewie goes off and he blasts Kylo. And it's amazing. And so, and you have Finn and Rey, and they react, they see it, and they all, you know, they're fleeing, and you've got the fighter pilots led by Poe. They're trying to blow up the Star Killer base and save everybody. And then, you know, Kylo Ren, you know, he's injured by Chewie, and he goes out there and he's going after him, and he keeps pounding his chest, you know, trying to incite the anger, trying to fuel the dark side. And then, you know, Finn busts out the lightsaber, and it's everything we've seen in the trailers, and they fight, and Kylo Ren pretty much owns his ass. I mean, Finn, all of the speculation that Finn was the new Jedi, I think Kylo Ren debunked that pretty quick when he just owned him. And then the lightsaber's sitting in there in the snow, and Kylo Ren's calling to it, and then all of a sudden it zips by him, and Rey gets it, and they fight. And Rey, you know, everybody was kind of wondering, what's the deal with Rey? And she, you know, from the time she first touched the lightsaber in Maz Kanata's castle, it's kind of shown she's got some connection here, and she's learning the Force at a rapid pace. I mean, she's doing the Jedi mind trick on the Stormtrooper when she's locked up, which is really hilarious, but she's learning the Force quicker than anybody we've ever seen learn it in the Star Wars universe. And she doesn't want any part of it, but eventually when she embraces it and she takes the lightsaber and they fight, and it's very much so a nod to the classic trilogy, the original trilogy, in the lightsaber battle, where, you know, that gone is the dance where everything's choreographed and these Jedi are doing the flippies and they're doing all these lightsaber tricks. That's gone. I mean, this is just pound for pound. This is a heavyweight fight, and they're just exchanging blows in the snow, and the trees are going down, and Rey, the entire time she's fleeing. She still doesn't want to be a part of it. But then when Kylo Ren is kind of telling her, like, you need a trainer, I can help you, and, you know, I can teach you the Force. And then she's like, the Force, and she kind of takes it in and starts feeling the Force, and then she just knocks him out, goes back, the chasm splits, and it's kind of this big old setup to episode 8. and I'm just so stoked. And we're only a year and a half away, so I'm glad we don't have to wait 3 years. But and then it sets up Snoke's telling General Hux, you know, get Kylo Ren, bring him to me. I'm gonna complete his training. So it's obvious both Kylo Ren and Rey were both obviously on opposite Skywalker journeys, but they're still early on in their knowledge of the Force, their ability to use the Force. And so now we've got Kylo Ren being brought to Snoke to complete his dark side training. And then, Finn gets taken to the medical bay, and then the last scene is obviously Chewie and Rey fly off, and they use the map from Luke Skywalker to get to him, and she finds him and holds the lightsaber out to him. So obviously he's gonna train her. And my original prediction was she's his daughter. There's plenty of things out there that lead to that probably being true, but I wouldn't put it past them to kind of flip it around and her being somebody else. I don't know who. So what didn't I like about the movie? What I didn't like was some of the CG was kind of meh. When they have the Ranthars, those creatures on the ship Han pulls the Falcon in and they're running from. I love the scene. I think it's well played and the actors are fantastic in it. But I just think they look kind of really CG, and it's kind of throwback to the prequels, especially now that we're getting actual live people playing troopers instead of CG clones and stuff like that. So that, and then the guy on Jakku, the junk dealer who's giving portions for junk, he looked kind of fake. Maz Kanata looked a little iffy. I liked her eyes. I like all of her dialogue. Lupita Nyong'o is fantastic with her dialogue, but it's just the CG kind of took me out of it just a little bit. The Death Star, the Star Killer base, and I know they had to do a throwback where they showed this was the Death Star, this is the Star Killer base, and and all these things, the Empire just can't get it right. They've always got this one spot that for some reason, if you can blow up this one spot, we're done. And they still can't seem to create a big destructive device that doesn't have some weak spot that a genius pilot can go in and blow everything up. What I loved about the movie, I loved the hero journey. I loved seeing Rey, and she's talking about family, and I think it's fantastic, all this stuff with her, like, kind of growing, because all of this stuff in the trailers and the TV spots and everything have kind of leaned towards Finn being the Jedi, which was obviously not true. And I loved seeing Rey, she didn't want to be a part of this. She just wanted to sit there, and for some reason waiting, and Maz Kanata tells her, like, what you're waiting for is not coming. You need to go take it. You need to take your destiny. And she finally accepts that, and she's moving forward, and I'm super excited to see this journey. And then you've got Kylo Ren on kind of like the villain journey, and in the beginning he's torn, and it's really cool seeing him like this badass, who's just shredding up stuff, killing people, stopping laser bolts in midair, and then all of a sudden you see him kind of torn, and he doesn't really know what he's going through. But then by the end, obviously, by striking down his father, he's kind of accepted his journey. And then you get Snoke saying, bring him to me. He's gonna complete his training. And the interaction with Kylo and Rey, where he's trying to force mind reader and she's fighting back. And then, he's like, I see it too, the island. And then she starts fighting back, and then so she's reading his mind, and in his mind, she tells him, you'll never be Darth Vader. And obviously that's his idol, his grandfather. He wants to be Darth Vader. And so they've got these conflictions, and it's going to be really interesting to see these two people on alternate paths, cross paths more. And I'm really looking forward to it. Episode 8 can't get here soon enough. I hope you enjoyed this first ever review. There's going to be many, many more. I have a couple figures that I've kept in the box because I want to do some unboxing reviews, and we'll talk a little bit more about Captain Phasma when I unbox that. But obviously, she was also another one of the disappointments of the movie. Granted, it was pretty funny when she gets pwned by Finn. But, anyways, Boy Wonder Broadcast, signing off here from Austin, Texas. I am your host, Johnny, and may the Force be with everybody. Bye.